She's the Blue Dog Democrat from Red State, Orange County. She's a high-ranking member of the House Homeland Security Committee, and she wants to be California's next U.S. Senator. An interview with Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, next on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by 5 Point. 5 Point is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming. Hi, I'm Rick Reiff. Welcome to Inside OC. It's been nearly 20 years since a young financial analyst shook up Orange County politics when she defeated longtime Republican incumbent Bob B1 Dornan. At the time, many saw her close win as an upset. Well, Democrat Loretta Sanchez has proven otherwise. Not only has nobody beaten her in all the years since, nobody's really come close. And Sanchez has worked her way up the Capitol steps, establishing herself as a senior member of the Homeland Security Committee and the Armed Services Committee. She's also championed social causes. She's known for doing things energetically and with flair. For example, not riding in local parades, but walking them in high heels. Now she's stepping up again, planning to run for the U.S. Senate. Joining me, Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez. Congresswoman, always great to have you on.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Rick.
Why are you running for the U.S. Senate?
Well, really two reasons. The first is that after Barbara Boxer decided she was not running, many of my colleagues from California, Democrats, came up to me on the House floor and said, "You're running, right? We need you there." One said, "Do you know where San Diego is?" Another one from Silicon Valley said, "There's nobody who's championed more from the south of California for Silicon and its issues than you have, Loretta. We have a good relationship, the north and the south, with you." People from, even my sister. You know how sibling rivalry goes on.
Right. Your sister, the one who is the
other
congresswoman.
Yes.
Okay.
She represents, of course, the Los Angeles area. She's been on the Judiciary Committee. She does a lot of work on intellectual property, and she knows that as I go around the world in my role as a participant in NATO and on Homeland and other issues with respect to treaties, that I always champion the issues of intellectual property. In particular for California, whether it's the north or here in Orange County with our biomed community, or in particular our entertainment industry, where we spend $100 million making a movie, and by the next day it's been pirated and it's back on our own streets selling for $5. So between all my colleagues saying you got to run, and then I started thinking about, well, this is the first time in 24 years we're going to have a new U.S. senator. And a lot of things have changed in 24 years. It's going to be my senator also. And I think that senator should be ready on day one to walk into that chamber and know what's going on. I've got 19 years worth of experience doing that.
Right.
And nobody else in the race has that.
Okay, but there is somebody else in the race, as well you know.
There are 10
Kamala
people
Harris.
in the race.
All right, but Kamala Harris, our state attorney general, is also in the race. She so far has raised more money than you. She seems to have the backing of much of the Democrat establishment. So how do you, and most folks, I know you disagree, but most people would say right now you're the underdog. How do you win the race?
So here's what people have to understand about the new election process we have in place. The top 2 vote getters in the June primary move forward. So yes, it's traditionally true that the Democratic machines are based in San Francisco. That's what we call the San Francisco Democrats, right? And that's why we see Jerry Brown, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom,
Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Boxer, yes.
All the San Franciscans are the statewide office holders. Well, here's the difference. Now we have the jungle primary. The top 2 vote getters move forward to the November election.
I like that. You call that the jungle primary.
The jungle primary.
I like that.
So here's what's going to happen. In the jungle primary, all move forward, either in place 1 or 2. 24% of the people show up to vote in the June jungle primary, heavily favoring the North. But in the November presidential election, about 78% of the people, of the voters show up to vote. 2/3 of them, Los Angeles and South. So If you're a Southerner and you're tired of the North running the business, then you're going to be voting for me. When I look at the demographics of who's really going to show up in November, it favors someone like me. I believe we're going to win this election.
Does the fact that you're a Latina help you think, in the general election?
Well, certainly one of the things that we know is that about 1 million voters will show up that are Latino in the June primary. 5 million Latinos will show up in the November election. Ms. Harris has already done focus groups. She's learned that Latinos like me. They know that I've fought for the issues that are important to them. Good jobs, health care for them, good school system, public school system for them to send their kids to, helping them with student loans and with Pell Grants for university. So the issues that are important to working families are the issues that are important to Latinos. I think they're going to be voting my way.
Okay. Another aspect of this is what happens with Republicans. There's still a couple in California, and independents, and that the Republicans are talking. Nobody's emerged. The Republicans don't really think that they have any chance of winning. So now there's much talk that maybe there won't even be a strong Republican in the race, which means it makes it easier for you and Kamala to be the 1 and 2 and face each other. What are your prospects of attracting the non-Democrat voter?
Well, I don't know. I mean, let's ask a Republican. Are they going to be voting in the November election, given that there are 2 names on the ballot, Loretta Sanchez or Kamala Harris? Are they going to be voting for Harris, a San Francisco Democrat who has no experience working in Washington, D.C.? Or are they going to be voting for Loretta Sanchez, who has represented a very Republican place, Orange County, for the last 20 years, has shown that she can work across party lines, has worked with people, has brought back money, has worked on business issues, has 19 years of experience, Homeland Security and the military situation.
But as you know, it seems like right now in the environment, the political environment we're in, having experience is a negative. People are saying you're part of the old boys network, or in case of California, the old girls network. But so how do you respond to that?
Well, certainly people know that I'm not part of anybody's network. I work with everybody. That's what's made me so different here in Orange County, that I can work across party lines, that I work on multi-dimensional lines. I work with my local community leaders. I work with the city councils. I work on water. Nobody has done as much as I have on water, really, in California. We have the largest reclamation district, as you know.
Right.
We have this groundwater replenishment district here, which I championed starting 19 years ago. So 70% of the water that we use in North Orange County is actually recycled. So in this time of drought, nobody's got a system as important as the one that we've got here. That was done by working with Republicans. You look at that water district, and they're all Republicans. So, Ms. Harris has no experience in Washington, D.C. She has no understanding of what we've tried, what hasn't worked, why things haven't worked, where we've gone. She has no experience in international treaties. She has no experience. I sit on NATO. I'm the vote for NATO on the parliament system. The Republicans choose me to go and vote. Why? Because it takes a unanimous decision. It takes working with people. She has none of that. So, and none of them have that.
Besides the working, your ability to work and your experience doing that, is there any issue, is there anything that makes you more moderate than her? Because there's a perception that you're the more moderate candidate, she's the more true blue liberal, if you will. Is there an issue or two where you clearly differentiate yourself from her?
Well, certainly, most people would say that I'm socially more progressive. I have a good voting record on women's reproductive rights, a good voting record with respect to LGBT, these types of issues, and the environment.
So there's not much difference between the two of you on that.
But I think when you look at my work in the Congress, you'll realize that I ask the question, why would we invest in this? Not just like, let's just spend the money on it. No. Why? Because I realize there are limited resources. I mean, I'm a taxpayer also.
Right.
I don't want
but
to be...
Is there one or two issues affecting California that you and her differ on?
I think we're going to be different on water. You know, water, when you look at it, we need water to grow in Southern California. The Central Valley, my gosh, I've been there, and it's been really sad to see what's going on there. They need water. So this whole issue of, you know, and I like our governor, and he said, just conserve more. Well, you know, I said to him, listen, you know, we can't stop taking showers forever. I mean, people down here are going to do what they can to conserve, but the reality is that in order to grow the economy of California, we need water. So we need to conserve. We need reclamation projects like the one we've done here in Orange County, but we need new water sources. So one of the problems we've had, for example, is that sometimes we get a lot of water at once and it all runs down to the ocean because we don't have where to store it. So we need some storage areas.
So, of course, if I'm a die-hard environmentalist listening to this, I'm going to say, I think I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Well, maybe they will. Maybe they will. But, you know, I'm looking for solutions. I'm looking for solutions for the Central Valley to have a good economy there, which they're really suffering right now. I'm looking for Southern California to have access to water because we need it. You know, we can replant our front yards, we can do this type of thing, and we've been doing it. But the reality is that industry needs water, we need water, and so where do we get the new sources of water? And I think we have to really analyze it and say, there are changes going on in our environment, and when we get the water, we need to be able to store it.
Okay, I very quickly want to start moving on to the your role with Homeland Security and that type of thing. But just one more political thing. I referenced it at the top. You have a lot of flair. You're very spontaneous, and you know that incident that occurred a couple of months ago where you were talking about you were going to an event that I think you thought it was an American Indian group and it was an Asian Indian group, and you did a little woo-woo-woo war cry, and boy, did people come down on you for that.
No. Well, first of all, let's put that in context. No. I was talking about an incident that happened 20 years ago when I was called by an Indo-American who said he wanted to help me in my first election. And when I went there, it wasn't a Native American, it was another, and he said to me, oh, you were expecting the other, and made the gesture, and I said, well, I guess I was, you know. He said, no, this is the Indo-American. It was 20 years ago. I was relating a story. So what happened? So one of Miss Harris's prime supporters was there with the camera, you know, edited the thing, sent it around and said, oh, she's disparaging to Native Americans. Look at the record. I've been 100% on self-determination for the Native American people. Right? She has really gone after them on their sovereignty issues. In the long run, even the Native Americans will be. So
I'm wondering, what does that say about our political process? You know, should there be a little room for people once in a while to say, hey, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, I slipped up. I know. And I'm wondering, had that been, let's say, a conservative Republican who had done that, do you think they would have paid a bigger price for doing something like that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they would have or not. I will tell you this. One of the problems that has happened, even in the 20 years, and I've only served in one position, and that is in the Congress for Orange County. One of the things that I have seen is that the left has gotten more left and the right has gotten more right. And the people who are in the middle, the people who actually talk to each other, the people who can cobble together the deals that need to be made to move forward our government are becoming less and less. There used to be 54 blue dog Democrats. Then we went down to 13. Now I think we're at 14 or 15 now. So the people who actually can talk to other people, who actually are looking for solutions, it's become more difficult for us to exist. So, you know, people say this all the time.
Now? Is there too much
People say this all the time. They say, I just want people to be able to work with each other. I want them to say, well, if that's the truth, then they're going to vote for me. You know, if that's really true, if what you really want is somebody who can sit down and work with you and work through solutions, then you're going to vote for me, because these extremes are really hurting our country. And is there too much got you? Yeah, and you know, everybody's got a cell phone these days. You know, I mean, you can't do you can't do anything anymore. You can't, you know, slick back your hair because you're impersonating somebody, or you can't, you'd be amazed. Think about what you do on a, self-grooming in public or whatever any people are doing. I've seen some of my colleagues, be taken out because, they pick their earwax. I mean, it's crazy what's going on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Well,
we're just people. People have to understand we're just people. So if you want a plastic Loretta Sanchez, if you want me only to be turned on and come out and say, hi, I'm going to give a speech now, then walk away and never have interaction with the people.
I don't think you're capable of that.
And I don't want to be that.
Right.
And I don't want to be that, because the best ideas and the issues that I've heard the most have been when I have been out among the regular people, and I want that. If being a senator means that I'm closed off from everybody, then I don't need that position. But if you really want a senator that's going to be listening to you, that's going to be understanding where you live, what's going on, that's going to be going door to door to talk to you, then you want Loretta Sanchez. Right. That's the biggest difference.
Okay. Let's talk about your role on the Homeland Security Committee, the Armed Services Committee. So you are, at this point, an expert in the Congress on the whole subject of Homeland Security and terrorism. We haven't had another 9/11, but we just saw a Russian plane go down. What are the chances that we're going to get hit hard again?
Well, first, let me tell you that there are a lot of things that we have really worked hard on to fix or to ensure that we have more capability to stop a real terrorist attack. But it's like anything else. Getting to 100%, the closer you get to, we're not going to have a terrorist attack, and I can guarantee you 95%. I can guarantee you 98%. I can guarantee you 100%. 100% would require two things: an incredible amount of money that we don't have, and secondly, a stripping of all of our rights as Americans. Think about what it means to be an American. To be an American means that I could get, as soon as I finish this show, I can get in a car, I can drive to Fresno, I can drive to Calexico, I could drive to New York City. The government doesn't know where I'm going, they can't tell me to go there or not go, etc. Okay. In a lot of countries, think about this, right. That's not true.
Okay, so are we 90% safe? I mean, you basically said, so there's a 1 in 10 chance that we'll...
I think we're probably about, I would say mid-90s as far as really, having people who are working very hard, who are closing the gaps that happen. But remember what terrorists do. They look and they look and they look until they find the place in the spot that we're vulnerable. And that's when they attack. So they have that on us, right? That they attack at the point they want, in a place they want, in a position that they want. We can't have 100% all the time on everything. We've done a really good job. Will there be another attack? There could possibly be. Will we be better prepared for it? I hope so. I mean, I worry about California, as I should. When Nancy Pelosi put me on that Homeland Security Committee, very high up, I'm number 2 on that committee, she said, take care of California. You're the one with the most expertise, because I had been on the military committee and been on the terrorism force. She said, you're the one with the best expertise to take care of California. So we look at things like the Millennium Bomb, or we look at things, Disneyland won't like when I say this, but it's icon, icon, the mouse ears, internationally known. It's a big threat, right? So we work with public and private to have the systems in place to bring down the level of risk that is involved.
You recently, on behalf of some of your Orange County constituents, wrote a letter to new Attorney General Loretta Lynch regarding this case that took place before you were in Congress, the 1985 slaying of a gentleman named Alex Oda. He was an activist. He was killed. The FBI, I think, says it's the oldest open counterterrorism investigation they have. Tell us about this. Who is Alex Oda? What's this about? And what are you trying to do?
Yeah, Alex was the head of a group that was an anti-discrimination group, and it worked mostly on people who would go against Arabs and Muslims and that type of thing.
Sort of a Palestinian rights person.
And he worked on peace. He was a civil rights leader in his own sense. He worked with the Jewish community here and with the Latino community and with many others. So he was really a civil rights type of person. And one day he went to his office right here on 17th Street in Santa Ana, not too far away from here, and he unlocked his door and a bomb went off and he died. This was 30 years ago. And we have never brought somebody to justice on that. We've not accused somebody, we've not brought them to trial, even though we have some ideas, or the FBI and the Justice Department have some ideas of who that might be. So I think it's time that we they haven't closed the case, but they haven't put the resources on it.
The fact that you wrote the letter to the new Attorney General, do you think Eric Holder didn't want to deal with it?
Well, I think he had a lot of other things and he didn't realize the importance of it, but I do believe that it is important. It is very important for us. And I'll tell you why I'm so passionate about this issue. Remember that I too had somebody come with a bomb to my campaign office and blow up. In this particular case, they blew themselves up, but so.
I don't recall that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right after we brought in the Patriot Act, so it was maybe about a year into, after 9/11, there was actually a gentleman who came to my campaign office, happened to be on Father's Day, a Sunday. Otherwise, my volunteers would have been in there working, and he was going to put a bomb on our office.
Wow.
And as he was putting it together in his car parked right in front of my campaign office, it blew up in his lap. He was the first one tried under the Patriot Act.
Is the Alex Oda case, you get involved in politics because he was espousing Palestinian causes. All the suspects, it's been written about that the suspects presumably fled to Israel. And so is that where the politics, Israel is our ally in the Middle East, we don't want to embarrass them, and so nothing's happening on this case?
Look, a lot of people know that if they look at my record, I've been very pro-Israel for its self-determination, and I've been very pro-Palestinian in the sense of a country for them and rights for them. So, so the answer is yes, it's been deemed that the knowledge that we have from way back then is that it could have been some very pro-Israel,
Jewish Defense League people
who did not like some of the statements that that Alex had made within that week.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be why we don't bring justice to this. To put a bomb and to kill somebody is just wrong.
Another cause you're very involved in, of course, is immigration. And you just recently criticized Saturday Night Live for having Donald Trump on as a guest. Did you get any satisfaction in that? Or
no, I mean, I just wanted to bring up this issue. Look, NBC Universal, which is the parent company of Who Has SNL, said after Mr. Trump made very disparaging remarks against Mexicans. Now, we know what he means by Mexican. It means all Latinos. I mean, there's reality, He doesn't know the difference between what is a Mexican-American, what is a Mexican with right papers here, what is a Mexican without papers here, what's a real national Mexican who's here on a tourist visa or what have you, or Guatemalan, for that matter. He doesn't know. And by the way, these Latinos have built the casinos, have run the restaurants, have been the bus boys.
But he says he's not talking about them.
Of the Trump enterprises, right? So he's made his money in the backs of these Latinos. So I find it very ironic that he would so disparage Mexicans, because my parents are Mexicans, for example. Now they're United States citizens, but they were born in Mexico and they, for many years, lived in Mexico. So he disparages them by saying that we are, rapists and criminals, et cetera, like German Americans aren't, or, he's just singling in on one class. So NBC, after those comments, said, we're not going to have anything to do with Mr. Trump because it was just wrong to do that. Then SNL, one of its shows, says, oh, now we're going to have him host. We're going to give him the limelight for an hour or an hour and 30 minutes, however long I don't know, because I don't watch the show, quite frankly. It's too late in the night for me to see it, and I'm too considerate of my money to have
And it just hasn't been the same since
like
Chevy
that.
Chase and Dan Aykroyd and all that.
Yeah, and maybe when I was younger, I stayed up, So, but I do think it was wrong for SNL to give him that much time after he has been so disrespectful to the Latino community.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. Maybe they'll have you on and let you come on as a counterbalance.
I think that would be great.
I think you'd be pretty good on SNL. Congresswoman, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Always good talking to you. Well, that's it for now. Thanks again to my guest, Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez. You can watch this show and past shows by going to pbssocal.org or go to rickreiff.com. Thanks for watching. See you again on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by 5 Point. 5 Point is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.